I just always noticed, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as especially when South Carolina was really successful, the style of player that South Carolina had on the defensive line. And I was going to ask you about, did you specifically target these type of builds, these type of skill sets, type of guys? Because it was more of like they were big, but a slender, like truly athletic lineman. And you think of the Melvin Ingrams. I mean, obviously Clowney ran like a 4.5. You mentioned Devin Taylor. I think of like Chaz Sutton. You think of Cliff Matthews. Like, they all had like that similar style. It's like, was that what you preferred? I mean, I know that's what you need in the SEC, especially on the edge. But is that like the type of player, I guess, you prefer when you were looking for those guys on the defensive front?
First of all, I like length.
Right. And those guys were long, dude.
Yeah. I mean, Devin was 6'7", 6'8", Clowney's 6'5", 6'6", Travion Robertson was 6'5", Cliff Matthews 6'4", 6'5". In fact, it was really almost a hindrance in recruiting when kids would come in from far away that didn't know much about us. I remember we had a guy that ended up going to Iowa. He was from out in the Midwest, and he came down with his dad to visit us in spring practice. And he came out there and he sat in my meeting, and I could tell something was wrong. And then all of a sudden we go to practice, and I couldn't get to them quick enough. They were in the car and gone, and never heard from them again. He saw those guys, and he went, "I don't look like this."
Yeah, there's just no way.
And he said, and I think he'd already been over to Georgia or somewhere like that. And he's like, "Man, I don't look like these SEC guys," and he didn't.
Yeah,
but I like length guys. That can they can learn how to use their, I call them levers. Put their body in proper positions. Be able to fight pressure, understand what pressure is, and then pass rush, because that's one thing that I think so many coaches nowadays don't put enough, emphasis on, because they don't understand it. It's not just line up and go. We had a good understanding of protection. I mean, I always break down. I'd spend all day Sunday breaking down protection. That's the only job I wanted on Sunday. Get the last game out of the way and start breaking down protection. And that's what I would do. And when I got through, I'd go home. And so, again, being understanding in the parts of pass rush, how to play with proper leverage on a quarterback, how to get him to move in certain ways. I mean, I've got a drill tape. I'd love to show it to you sometime, but I mean, it's in depth,
right?
Very in depth about everything that goes into pass, everything that goes into really how to play the game, and it's all the minor details, the fundamentals. And I know here at South Carolina, we put up some pretty good numbers over the years in rushing the quarterback. And when I went to Florida State, they had 13 sacks the year before. And Jimbo told me, he said, one of the reasons I'm hiring you is, I know your reputation as the guy that coaches pass rush. He said, we got to get that changed. Well, the first year, I think we had 35 or 36 sacks. And then next year we had 51 and led the country.
Is it, I mean, obviously it's talent, but is it as much mentality as anything?
It's mentality, and again, understanding proper leverage. You can't believe how many sacks get left on the field because the guy loses leverage on the quarterback. See, I would take anybody that blitzed. I had them for about 10 or 15 minutes a week in practice.
Anybody who would blitz on the field.
Anybody corner, outside backers, whatever, they came and worked with me.
Right.
And all we did was work pass rush, moves. And in fact, when Derwin James, it kind of tickled me when he got drafted by the Chargers, and he went through his first, he's had injury problems, but he went through his first couple of practices. They said, man, this guy he understands pass rush better than any perimeter guy we've ever had. And I said, yep. See, we wouldn't use him on special teams at Florida State because, injury, possibilities. So he just stand over here. I said, come over here. He would jump right in there with all the perimeter people at the ends and everybody that could be rushing the quarterback. I mean, and he would do our drills. And he got where he was really pretty good at it.
Right.
And so, but it's so much more to it than, like saying, just lining up and going. You got to learn how to pick people. I remember Ellis Johnson, who's a great friend of mine, one of the best coaches I've ever been.
Fantastic coach. Yeah.
Oh, he's unbelievable. And Ellis was always, he'd say, Brad, he said, can you get there 3 this week? And I'd say, yeah, we'll work it out. We'll find a way. We may take a guy, we'd pick a guy here and try to get matchups. As long as you know where the center's turning, you can make stuff happen.
Right.
And so we're getting ready to play Clemson. Here, one of those years we beat them, he came up to me on Monday. He said, can you get there at 2? I said, Ellis, I said, man, that's a tall chore. So what I did was I took Lottie.
Lottie Adjeboy?
Yeah. And put him out there at defensive end. And I said, Lottie, I just want you to drop straight back and start looking to your right and looking to your left for anybody crossing the field. And Lottie said, you want me to do what? I said, here's what I want you to look for. Cross-dressers and drag queens. I said, he understood it. A cross-dresser
right,
or somebody dragging across. And so, in fact, if you ask Lottie all the time, tell me about your coverage career. He'll say cross-dressers and drag queens. But so, and then I took Eric Norwood, and I think it might have been Melvin or Travian, I forget which one. And I put them both outside the center and ran a little twist game. And I knew which way the center was going to work. So we got Norwood free. And I mean, he just spit right up in there. And they got their tackles and their guards just sitting there like, well, there's nobody for me to block.
Right.
Everything was happening inside. And we hit him.
Yeah. That was 09, right? I think.
Might have been
Norwood.
It was Kyle Parker.
Yeah, that was 09. Norwood's last year, I believe. Yeah. Fantastic player. I mean, obviously still holds the record for sacks. I mean,
see, and Eric, there's another one right there. I mean, nobody wanted Eric.
Yeah, I remember he wasn't a very highly regarded prospect.
Well, he was a lineman.
Right.
And, people looked at him like he was undersized. And so we took him, and at first he didn't know how to work. And I used to call him High School Harry every day. And I used to piss him off. And finally he said, Coach, I understand what you mean. I need to work harder. And he started doing it. And I mean, from then on, I still that game against Kentucky, you had 2 scooping scores.
Yeah, 07,
touchdown, that was a heck of a game. And just, I mean, everything. The Thursday night game against Ole Miss.
Yep.
They had Bradley Sile was their left tackle. He was a freshman. And Ty Nixon was on that staff. Yep. And Ty, when we beat him, Ty came up to me after the game. He said, man, you have ruined our freshman left tackle. He said, he'll have to be seeing a sports psychologist. So he said, Norwood set the career sack record that day.
Yeah, I remember, at that game.
Stadium.
Yeah.
And so he said, Norwood has ruined that kid. He said, right now he's in the locker room, he's crying. He's just, So, but you take who you got and you make it, things work around. Cliff Gathers had tremendous range.
Huge guy. I remember. He was
6'8".
massive. Yeah.
That was another one, big tall guy.
Yeah, he was huge.
But he's 6'8", and Cliff, what a great family and what a great kid. And, but he that's the things he had to learn. And his uncle Jumpy, who was a great player, Jumpy Gathers in the NFL. Jumpy had a big rip. They called it I think forklift move or whatever. But it wasn't really much with your hands. And Cliff had to learn how to use his hands because he was trying to use what Jumpy used the whole time. And it was more to it.
Right.
And once he submitted and said, I'm going to do that, he got better. But yeah, pass rush is what a lot of coaches don't spend enough time on.
Now, where did you learn that? I want to is that something you picked up while playing or while under Mac Brown? Like, where did you just study the game? Like, where'd you learn that?
I studied the game and then in
the art of the pass rush. That's really what it is. Right.
But in the 80s, I used to go to a lot of NFL camps. And I went to an NFL camp. I forget, I don't know if it was the Vikings or Falcons or whatever. But I got a chance to sit in on some meetings with the D-line coach, and he kind of gave me some pointers. I took a lot of notes. I still got notepads just packed full of stuff. And I got a saving notepad that I always give to all my buddies that go to work for. I said, "Here you go. You need this. You need to know this right now, and it'll help you." So, but he taught me a lot. There was one camp in particular, and then we were playing Marshall, and the league had kind of become us and Marshall every year. And in the regular season, I mean, they threw the ball around a lot, which a lot of people didn't do back then.
Right.
And so I took 2 guys. One of them was a walk-on, Rayford Cannon, weighed 210 pounds. Then I took another kid, weighed about 235, and they both were tall. And I put them inside, took out them big old tackles. I put them inside in second and long and third down in that game. And that became, I used to call it our green group. That ended up becoming our rabbits group. And so we twisted with them, and nobody had ever ran bear defense, which is a pair of 3 techniques and a 0 nose. We were doing that. I did it so I could get the center one-on-one. We were twisted, and we sacked them like 7 or 8 times that day and beat the fool out of them. And but that was the start of rabbits. And then, of course, I did it everywhere else I went, and just, the business with a lot of pro coaches over just because I felt like they understood pass rush better than a lot of college guys did. And so, bottom line is, we did it here. I mean, our rabbits group here, I would take, I usually kept Travian in there, but I'd take Lottie out, and I'd put in sometimes Aldrich Fordham in there, Melvin Ingram. I put Clowney and Melvin both. I'd stand them up and use them in twist situations. That way the center couldn't ID them, because they may start over here and also end up over here.
Right.
And like at night, we beat Clemson, and Clowney had 4.5 sacks. I mean,
still the record at their stadium.
Yeah, but I messed with that center. In fact, I saw that center later on. He said, "Man," he said, "you messed with us so bad." And he's a coach now. And I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "I wasn't sure going into the game exactly what the ID was about where you were turning." I said, "So what I did, I put Clowney where I thought you were going to turn, and I was going to pick you and wrap Clowney back around. As soon as you turned to Clowney," I said, because that wasn't the ID, but I figured it was Clowney. So I said, you showed me right then, y'all were turning to Clowney. He said, that was our plan, to turn to Clowney the whole time. So when you turn, I brought the thing tackle on the other side and just blew the center up. And Clowney he engaged the center and it's wrapped right around, and it was easy.
And it obviously worked. Obviously worked.
But stuff like that.
Right.
We had, when I had Florida State, I had DeMarcus Walker. He was a ACC Defense Player of the Year. He ended up being a second-round draft pick. He had 16.5 sacks. He led the country in sacks.
Right.
And so, guys that buy into that kind of stuff. And I had Brian Burns at Florida State, who was fantastic. He plays for the Panthers right now. But we spent a lot of time on pass rush, a lot of time. And if you don't spend time on it, don't expect your players to do it on Saturday. And then the other thing is, always have a drill for everything that you do. If I'm going to ask a player to do something, I'm going to have a drill for that. Just like from yourself being a pitcher in baseball, how many times you reckon you drilled that ball's, hit down towards the first baseline? You've ran that path all the way through the first
banana
base.
peel.
I mean,
thousands on thousands on hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, but you have to do that. If
it's got to become second nature.
Yeah, if he's going to expect you, to do that. Or how many times, whenever they bunt a ball down the third baseline, who's supposed to cover third base?
Right.
And then catcher.
Yeah.
The catcher's got to, he follows the ball down. Ball gets thrown over because the third baseman can't get back in time. Yeah. And the catcher's, then there's a lot of guys that take that wide turn. Got a problem here.
Yeah.
So, just drills and fundamentals, and that way you keep practice fun for the players. You're not doing the same thing every day, but yet they're getting better and they can see themselves getting better. And so, pass rush is a big part. And we played the run well too. But I always felt like the run was more, toughness. It was about hand placement and body, presence and having a good base, which to me, I always felt that was easy to teach a kid. The toughness part, sometimes you can't teach them, you have to learn them. I use that word. You don't teach, you got to learn it. And the pass rush stuff it's very technical. I mean, hand placement. I mean, learning to get proper leverage. And I got into this thing. I started going to clinics and listening to the wrestling coaches, because I thought to myself one day, this is years ago, I said, I felt like I had a pretty good knowledge of football from people I've been around. I said to myself, who can teach engagement and disengagement better than a wrestling coach?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. That's all they do.
Right, yeah.
And I got into it. I called it joint manipulation. I mean, I can get in a rip position. All I got to do is pull in your bicep. And if you hold on to me, I'll dislocate your shoulder.
Right.
I mean, I can get in a position where, I put that elbow in a compromising situation, and I can break it. But I called it joint manipulation. And how to hit the hip. You don't just, pick a guy, you pound that dang hip, because that hip is a vital, mechanism.
Yeah.
It'll go.
Right.
And it goes easily. So if we were standing up here, I could show you all that stuff. But
I don't know if I want you to go after me like that.
but that's
right.
It's joint manipulation, because they change. They holding is legalized.
Right.
And then the other thing that happened was these offensive linemen got these tight jerseys.
Yeah.
And they put two-way carpet tape on the inside of them.
Really?
So the jerseys are matted down to the shoulder pads. There's nothing to grab hold of anymore. So sometimes in pass rush, you can't just grab a jersey like you used to. There's nothing to grab hold of. You got to manipulate. You got to threaten him. I'm going to break your shoulder. I'm going to break your elbow, or even your wrist. You work
the chess game, just the chess game.
Yeah, I mean, and we teach that's things we worked on all the time. And so, but I got a lot of that stuff from wrestling coaches.
Awesome.
I mean, anyway, I've had a good career, and I've been around some good people.